Hello, and welcome to my channel again. So today I have a couple of questions that I'd like to answer. A couple of people have graciously left me some questions to help me with the development of my vlog, or vlog, however it's pronounced. So here I have a few questions. The first question comes from a YouTube questioner, one Curry King Worst, who asks me, what kind of reactions do you get when first telling someone who may not be familiar with what you're talking about at all about your faith? So over the years, the questions and the reactions have kind of varied. As a child, after I had basically determined, without knowing what paganism was, essentially, that I was pagan, a lot of times the reactions were, oh, well, that's just make-believe. That's not a real religion. Which, of course, pisses you off as a child. You know, well, there you have it. When you have a young child who wants to be a Viking and worships Viking gods, getting them angry is not always the best choice, because then they want to take up arms and armor and raid your villages and stuff. As I got older, some of the reactions got a lot more confrontational. I did get in quite a few fights in high school and afterwards, purely based on my religious views, and I think that's completely ridiculous. I have never personally gotten in someone's face and wanted to deck them in the schnoz simply because they didn't worship Odin, or the Dagda, or the Morrigan. So that particular reaction, it kind of was different. As I've become an adult and after being ordained and perhaps after having a much better idea of what it is that I believe and what I practice, but as I've gotten older, the reactions have been less confrontational, and the reactions have been more curious, if anything else. I do tend to get into rather long conversations with Christian ministers about the similarities and the differences between Proto-Celtic and Celtic belief and Norse belief, and how they're similar or dissimilar to Christian faith. And being that Christian faith was built largely upon the bricks of pagan houses that were already there, it's easy to see that there are going to be some similarities. There are going to be differences, but there are going to be some similarities as well. So I hope that answers your question, Curry King, and I will be moving on to the next question now. So our second question comes from a Twitter user, and I forgot to post that I do have a Twitter, so I will post a link in the comment. I will post a link in the description of the video talking about my Twitter account. I apologize. It is not the same name as my YouTube account. You will find it under Zazim Shaman, but I will post a link in the description. So our Twitter user, JDubia90, and I sincerely apologize if I mispronounced that, they asked, were you raised in a pagan household, or did you come to it later in life? Another great question. I had 3 open heart surgeries as a young child. I was born with a congenital heart defect, so I've kept a hold of memories of dreams that I had whilst on the operating table, and whilst on the operating table, I had dreams about gods and goddesses who I had never heard of their names before, but they told me their names and told me that I wasn't allowed to stay dead, that I had to go back. Interestingly enough, I spoke with a goddess when I was a very young child of 7. She, as I was on the operating table, introduced herself as Lilith and told me that I needed to start looking deeper into my roots, and that the deeper I looked, the closer I'd get. That was a very cryptic message for a 7-year-old. But when I awoke from the operating table, I proceeded to tell my papa, my grandfather on my mother's side, I proceeded to tell him after I had woken up that I was the god of reptiles, because I was talking to other gods in my dreams. That meant that I was a god. Well, that's how it goes when you're a 7-year-old child. But, so I did, I guess, come to paganism a little later in life. Pretty early in, but later. I was not raised to be pagan. As a teenager, my mother and father both were sort of agnostic for a while, until I started to get really deep into the study of paganism and started looking at places to get ordained, started looking at groves to practice at, and things like that. And after that, both of my parents started doing their own research into Celtic and Norse paganism specifically, and they sort of followed suit. So I guess you could say I influenced them in that direction, towards following suit with me. So my daughter will be raised pagan. That's what I am. She will be allowed the opportunity to make her own decisions and study on her own, to come to her own conclusions about what she believes. But I will raise her pagan, you know. We will sit at the dinner table and we will say the great prayer to Odin. Rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub. Yay, Odin. So I hope that answers your question, JDubia90. The last question I'd like to answer today comes from a friend of mine and a Grove member who subscribed to my channel, and it must have flown right under my radar because I didn't get a notification of it or anything. So they ask, is it easy to become a druid/shaman? No. It is not easy. There is a great deal of material that you must learn. Like I talked about a little bit in my last video, you have to be knowledgeable enough, or at least able to get the knowledge about a broad category of different pagan religions, because you never know when you may be asked to perform a ceremony for someone who may not necessarily worship the same pantheon of gods as you. I had the opportunity earlier last year to perform a marriage for a Hellenistic couple. And then more recently than that, I did the ceremony for one of my best friends and his husband, and they had a more agnostic ritual. So you need to be able to be flexible and be able to change and adapt what you know to someone else's needs. There are also a great deal of things that you have to learn that do not involve performing rituals or ceremonies for people. You need to be to be a druid or shaman, at least in my opinion. To be a druid or a shaman, you have to some degree, be a healer of some sort. You need the ability to... You have to know what tinctures are, what poultices or salves or ointments are, and you need to be able to make them, which takes some time to learn those skills. So, all in all, I spent about 4 years learning the craft, which I have taken to calling my Druid craft. It took me about 4 years to learn the craft to become a Druid. And that is... that's a significant amount of time to devote to something that you probably won't be able to make money off of. I hope that answers the questions. Again, if you guys like the video, please leave a like and leave comments with questions that you have. I do my best to come up with questions on my own, but obviously 12 minds think better than one, especially when one is, preoccupied trying to come up with questions to ask himself. It's not easy to have a conversation with yourself. I would like to make a note here at the end of the video. The music that I am listening to in the background is 1 hour of elves, fairies, and merfolk music by Derek and Brandon Fletcher. You can find their YouTube channel by searching for the title or for Derek and Brandon Fletcher. If you all like the addition of music into the vlog, please comment, let me know. If you guys can think of something else, please comment, let me know. And if you have any questions, please comment, let me know. Alrighty. Blessings of the forest with you all, and have a good day.